Next. Yeah, how we're at. Both are with me.
All right, good morning. Today's Daf Ayin Zion. It's okay. Let me get Jack going.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. So we got to the top of Ayin Zion Amid Aleph, I think.
First
I guess 2 to the top. Yeah. Now we have a couple of rulings. Actually, the first one will be related to what we finished up yesterday. What are we talking about? Let's find out. I forgot. Rava Heidman. I'm sorry? Oh, yeah. So a person hired people to go ahead and dig for him. And rain came. So it hired, hey, you guys are going to come tomorrow by me, and then it rained, and then they came. So see the problem, or even if they get there, right? Then as they get to the field, but then it rained before they started, it's their loss. However, Asanara, but let's say the river overflowed, then see the balabais, then the owner, there was the losses with the balabais, the owner. And he pays them like a worker who's at different wages. But the reason is because the owner of the field, he knows that the field overflows at times and can be irrigated like that, and therefore he shouldn't have hired the people, right? Because they had no idea that would happen, so he wasted their time. So therefore, he's the one at fault. The person who's hiring people to go ahead and dig for him, but and then the river stopped up in the middle of the day and they couldn't continue. If this never occurs, this is a very rare occurrence, then it's their loss. It's the worker's loss. They have no work to do, therefore they only get paid for half the day. However, if it is something that happens commonly, then if they live in the town, then the loss is theirs, right? They should have known that the river often stops and there is no water to do it, so therefore they were at risk by doing it. However, they're from out of town, they're not from the city, then the balabais, and the loss of the balabais, because he knows that happens, and they had no idea, he never informed them, and therefore the balabai should inform him, and therefore he has the lower hand. So a person hired people to go ahead and do a job, do work for him for the day. And you know what? The guy was a good worker, and he finished his work in half the day. So he was paying for a full day, and he completed what he needed to do in half a day. If he has something, or inami say.
Contract to do the work and contract for the day.
So the contract was come by me to my right. Normally it could take a day, but the guy hustled, and therefore he did the job. So he was hired for the day, but the job that he was hired for was already completed before the day was over. So if he has something which is easier, in other words, he already has his time for the day. So go ahead and start filing. Inami the klasa mafker lahu. Or something similar to that, he can go ahead and say, basically, he says, look, I still have your time is just as hard as, or is just as easy as the job you were doing before, so he's allowed to go ahead and do it. However, the kashmine, but however, if it was something that's more difficult, I hired you to go ahead and water the lawn, and now I want you to go ahead and rake leaves, which is much more difficult than watering, then he cannot force him to go ahead and do that. And then he goes ahead and pays them the full payments. Like Gemara says, he had a day worker. He completed the job at half the day. Why do you have to pay him for the full work even the rest of the day? At least they can put a bottle, but just let him pay like a worker who would be paid, to sit around and do nothing. So kikama right? Right, we're talking about, let's say, the workers or the movers, the schleppers of mechuzah. Over there, when they worked, it was good for them physically. So therefore, it was not good to sit idly by. So by them sitting idly by is actually not a benefit. They would actually prefer to do heavy work, and therefore, when they do heavy work, you get paid the full salary. Therefore, they get paid the full amount. So Amar, we said earlier, Shamim Lahan est ma sha'asu. So we go ahead and evaluate that which they completed. So we're talking about a case of a person hired someone to do for 2 Salayim, right, which is we said was 8 dinar. So two, right? Because the seller is 4 dinar. So he hired him to go ahead for 2, and then the guy in the middle of the day, he says, the worker says, I'm done. So it says the Rabbanan, so show that as Masha. So we value that which they did. So Kate said, Haya, Yafashisha dinarim, then nice lamb seller, right? Over there, if less than the job, in other words, they didn't have the job, which was 4 dinarim, and then the other job originally was contracted out for another 4, but now price of work went up, it was worth 6. Nevertheless, they get paid a seller, and the owner has to come out of pocket to pay, ultimately paying, will pay 10 dinar for the job. He has to pay someone 6 to finish it up. Because the Rabbanan hold that the workers have the upper hand, right? He's like the Rabbanan were like the union the union side. Now the union reps. Or they can go ahead and finish the job and get their 2 salayim. So because as Pshita, it's obvious that they were contracted to do it for 8, and which is 2 salayim. And so obviously they quit, one of them quit in the middle of the day, and they end up finishing, so they get paid like the original contract. So it goes Pshita. So I says no. But say their work went up in price. He went there in a piece. Right? In other words, maybe they'll say, you convinced us to come back, so we assume that you're going to go ahead and pay us by the current rates, right? And therefore, you pay us 6 and not 4. He says, no, I don't pay any extra. Yeah, the way I appeased you, you brought him food and drink and other benefits, but in terms of contract, of compensation, that was the same as as originally contracted.
Oh, Maine. I've seen better.
What was that?
They have to check the.
Oh yeah, in the middle of the day, right? Maybe they were hired a couple weeks earlier, and then I don't. So we'll soon see. No, when they start, right. But maybe that when they were hired 2 weeks ago, and almost like by the time when they started it, the prices went up. But
they got hired.
But even then, between them, right? Yeah. So seller, nice and seller. And if there was a seller left, and if there was a seller work, then he pays him for the seller. So he says pshita. So he says not like tzricha. There's zeal avidas to be kara. But no, in the beginning, when he contracted, $4 for the hour, right? Really, the work was only $3 an hour, and he offered him a dollar extra or a zuz extra, right? Well, the saif and the and now really the wage went up. Now the appropriate wage is $4, right? Which was what he offered this. What would you say to me? Tuesday Havelan. Maybe with this other claim as well, you told us $1 extra. So now the rates went up from 3 to 4, and therefore before we had $1 extra. So now we want $1 extra. We want 5 instead of 4. It says, yeah, when I offered you, right, better wage, that's because I didn't know you can get it. But now, right, I wouldn't have offered extra when people want to, I'm generous. I'm going to go ahead and pay $15 an hour, right? And that's all good, and it's all good until when a wage goes $15 an hour. Then you're not doing any favors by paying $15 an hour. And Reb Daisy, now Reb Daisy, he is more on the ownership side. Reb Daisy, we go ahead and evaluate how much has to be done in the future. And if it was 6 dinar, nice then shekel, then he gives a shekel or 2 dinar. In other words, that his entire contract was 8. You finish half the job, but to complete the job is going to be 6. So I'm only going to pay you 2 because ultimately, right, you basically told me that this job will cost me 8. So yad payal al tachtayna, because according to Rabbi Daisy, he holds that if the worker quits in the middle of the day, then he has the lower hand, not the upper hand. So or you can go ahead and finish the job and collect the 2 salam as originally contracted. So says pshita, it's obvious. He says, look, see, so in other words, really the prices went down, right? In work. Right, and therefore he went ahead and he hired them basically for an extra one in the beginning. So So he says, that maybe what you say that he said that basically, I will go ahead and pay you less. So So he says, so Gemara says, so Kamash Malon Deverle, Adai to David Alon, Avidasa Shapirasa. So in other words, yes, even though yes, you're paying us extra, but don't go down in wages. Rather, we're just going to do better work, and therefore, we don't want less money. Well, even though the money, the value went down, we're going to go ahead and do the job better.
Was there a contract there, an agreement there before?
There was
For X number of bucks, and then it went down.
Yeah, there was an agreement as to what their wages were.
What there were, and then it went down. Still,
but the wages went down.
Yeah,
and they wanted to quit midday, right? But but nevertheless,
you should pay what originally because
so that was what I said.
Yeah,
sell a nice him sell it. So it says pshita. Ravuna bered Ravnas and like tzricha the azel gabe zuze meikara. Right? It says no. It was talking about a case of when they started, they were going to go ahead and I was do it for who's less. They basically said, we'll do it for cheaper for you. They really want to do the work by this guy. The guys do it, and then all of a sudden, right, when they made it cheaper, but then the rates went down. So now they were at market. So Mojiv said, but you guys, we're coming in $1 under the market. So too now when the market went down, she also go down $1. So Kamash Malon, right? We only did it, right? Instead of paying us, 5, we went down to 4, right? It's because we want to be the ones 4, but but now that you'll be able to go ahead and hire people without this discounted rate. So therefore, we're not going to go lower than this. We're only going to stay at the discounted rate. And now
we're paying them what they were supposed to be paid for.
Right, and even though it went down, they don't have to go down just because that went down. No. They're only going down was because they want to to be the workers there. So, but now he wouldn't be able to get cheaper. So Amar Rav halach Rab Daisi. The halach is like Rab Daisi that if the worker changes his mind in the middle, the worker has the lower hand, right? Because he was the one who made the change. The Rav says, a worker can go ahead and be chayzer in the middle of the day. So maybe there's a difference in schiras and kablanos. Now, schiras is basically a day worker, and kablanos is a person who is hired to do the job. So maybe you want to go ahead and say there's a difference between Rabbi Daisi. In other words, when Rav says, so one case halacha is like Rabbi Daisi, right? And another case, Rav says that we side with the employee. Mm-hmm. So maybe you'd say the difference is when there's employee versus kabbalah. So Mishani law, is there a difference? Well, Tani, we learn in another price. Person hired a worker, and then he heard in the middle of the day that he had a relative that died. Or the guy got sick. So im sacher, who if he's a hired worker, then nice and scharo. Then he goes ahead and he gives him his schar, and he kablan who, and if he's the kablan, also nice and the kablan also, right? He can go ahead and he also pays him for the time he worked. So Gemara says money. So whose opinion is this? So even though they left him of the day, he still has to go ahead and pay him. In other words, the owner can't, or the employer can't say, I hired you to do a job, you didn't finish the job, so I'm paying you nothing. Either finish the job or get zero. You can't say that. This has happened. So it says, and there's no difference. So my ear why do you have to say a case of where that he heard someone died, or he got sick? Right? The honest in the case of the honest, kilo honest nami, right? Didn't you just say? Didn't the Rabbanan say even if the worker quits, right, or it's the union guy, he's still able to go ahead and get his pay? He has the upper hand. Elalav, Rab Daisi. Rather not. It must be the opinion of Rab Daisi. He says it's only an einus. And we see that he doesn't go ahead and differentiate between schiras and kablanos. Maybe over there that's talking about davar avod, the divrei hakol. It's not just Rab Daisi who says that the employee that the employer has the upper hand if the guy quits. But if a person quits and if I quit in the middle of the day, I'm unloading your ice truck, right? And I quit in the middle of the day, so I can't just say, hey, give me half my wages. Why? Because it's never up, but he's going to cause damage. All the ice is going to go ahead and melt if you don't finish loading it. So therefore, such a case, everyone would agree that the owner has, and he agrees that the owner has, the upper hand in that case.
When we first started this morning.
Yeah.
We talked about the case where the guy finished the work earlier than he was supposed to, and they're requesting you pay for the day of the work.
Right.
What we're saying now, you should either hire somebody as the risk come on, it's one or the other. Don't say, I'm hiring for the day to do this work. That puts yourself, everyone in that.
Right. So they
Understand you're hiring to do the work. It takes you how long it takes you, or I'm hiring you for the
right. So
day.
they used to have day workers, right? So if you hired a day worker, I'm gonna hire you as a day worker, right? In other words, people wouldn't, right? In other words, he was paying him per hour or let's say per day, per hour, right? So he was hiring for the day. So he's hiring for the day to mow my lawn.
So then you're in trouble. Because
Then you're only basically held to, you have to pay him for the day, and you can work him up until, the difficulty of mowing the lawn. But you can't, all of a sudden have him start moving boulders. That wasn't what he was hired for, even though you hired him for his time. But
here just differentiate between serious and trouble.
right, correct, right. So there is a difference, but if you're hiring someone as a day worker, if it's a day worker to do a job, so there is some specification in what type of work you're doing for the day. All right, so Tanan, so let's look at our mission. It says, so whoever goes ahead and changes, he has the lower hand. Whoever retracts, he has the lower hand. So what do those two statements mean for our mission? It's like the Mishnah on later on Rabbi Yehuda, who says that a person makes a change. I give a dyer, I give something, go ahead and dye this blue, and then I come pick it up and he dyed it red. So he only gets paid for either the color of the dyes or the amount that he benefited, whichever is the lower amount. He has the lower hand. So that's the case of Kol Mashana. Whoever changes it, he has the lower hand. But what does that mission when it says whoever goes and retracts the lower hand, is it not to include a worker? Like Rab Daisi says that that a day worker, right? If he quits, then he has. So we say Ella Rab Daisi Tartikam. Rather, Rab Daisi said in both cases, both a poel and a kabbalah, in both cases, and Rav holds like him one for a person to do a kablanus. In that case, all right, he holds like him that case. Knows if he's hired to do a job, then he quits, then he doesn't get paid at all. And the other case is, but the other one that he hires a day worker, then he doesn't work the entire day. He still has to pay him for that which he worked. Or ibay seba. So anything.
What if he, okay, what if he quits? Then he doesn't have to pay, right?
As we said, it's different. If he quits and he was hired for the job, then Rav would say then he gets zero. But if he quits in the middle and he was a day worker, then you have to pay him for that you worked. So he has the lower hand, whoever is chayzer. Look at the tiny. We're going to ask chayzer. What's the case of person who's chayzer? He sells a field to his friend. I sell it to Eddie a field for the be'el of zuz for 1,000 zuz. And then you only give $200 so far. So if it's the meicher who says, you know what, I don't want to go ahead and do it, then then Eddie, the buyer, is going to have the upper hand. And so now he could say, give me my money back, Yoel. Right, give my 20. But karka, can I get my icy? Or give me one of the lands. So what does he take from me? From the choicest lands. It was Manshlokeach, but Eddie gave me $200, says, you know what, I want my money back. I don't want to do the transaction. Then now I, the seller of the upper hand. So I can say, okay, you know what, you don't want to take your money back. Or here is your land. Can I get your land? Right, and then Meheka and Magbia, and which partial land do I give you? Magbia, I mean, I give you from the worst land. We teach him basically. We do it. Teach him not to go ahead and be chayzer ketzah. What should you do in such a case? Ketzah law and pliny ben pliny acharti said a pliny to the pliny. I went ahead. Yoel Goldberg sold my field to somebody else, to Eddie, be'el of zuz for 1,000 zuz. V'nasan li, and he gave me mehem asayim zuz. He gave me 200 zuz. And now I have a claim against him for 800 zuz. In other words, like a lawsuit for 800 zuz. The land is all yours, right? Says Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. At the land is Eddie's. He owes me $800. Kana umachzir lo yisashar. Then he has to go ahead and pay it even after after many years you got to go ahead and pay up. So now let's explain this case. First of all, we said if Eddie goes ahead and says okay, I don't want to buy the rest. I said I don't want to sell you the rest. So Eddie says okay, fine, but I already paid you 200, so I get 20% of the land, and he gets the best land. So what does that mean? The Edis, or he gets the best,
Right.
So let's see what that means. So maybe that means of any of my movable properties that he can take 200 zuz worth. But Eddie is like a Eddie should only be allowed to go ahead and take the middle. And furthermore, why are you talking about my properties? I literally was selling you land. So take from the land. So what does it mean? The way to understand is no, you take the choices of lands from this
20%
of the land I was selling you, take the best in that case. Right, exactly. He takes the nail land or the zibars or the worst land. In other words, if Eddie's the one if Eddie doesn't want to buy the rest of the land, I'll say okay, but you have to at least give me 20% of it, so that I can give him from the worst of the land that was under contract. He can say he eats from his property. Why is that? The stamman the zavin ara be'alfei. So a person, if Eddie's gonna go ahead and buy my land for 1,000 zuz, it's very expensive. So what's he gonna do? He's gonna sell some of his other assets to get the cash. So Eddie is by me not refusing to sell you the rest of the 80% of my land, I've caused you damage. I'm like a mazik. I caused you damage because you sold your property thinking you were gonna buy this. So therefore, you are now a victim of my damages. Therefore, he's like someone was damaged. And as we learned, and people are damaged, they are paid from the choicest lands. So he says, no, we should avoid the situation by him writing out, Eddie, basically, it's like you owe me $800, right? Like a loan almost. So Tom, only the reason is because I wrote this out. If I didn't write it out, he wouldn't acquire the rest of the land. If one who goes ahead, I lost my buyer. So he says, so a person goes ahead. Yeah. All right. So if I go ahead and if I I give a security to my friend, I'm going to go ahead and purchase something. So I said, I'm going to buy this from you. I'm telling you, I'm going to buy this from you. If I don't buy this, you can keep my bicycle. You can keep this arvon is machlecha. And the other guy says, no, if I don't sell my bike, I will pay you double the amount of your collateral of your bike. The time are fulfilled. Rabbi Yossi. Why? And Rabbi Yossi goes, the shitas damar asmachta kanya. So the person, even though he says something that he doesn't think will happen, like, oh, if I don't buy this, I'll go ahead and you can punch me in the face, right? The smachta, nevertheless, a smachta is kanya. He does go ahead and acquire it. And Rabbi Yehuda Imer, no, he only acquires, at least let him go ahead and acquire it Keneged the Arvon. So if I was going to go ahead and buy this land from Meir, and I said, here's, hold on to my bicycle, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. So then I go ahead, at least let him go ahead and acquire it Keneged the bike. You keep the bike and I Keneged Arvonos. Only when I says, this, my bicycle, my collateral will be acquired by you.
Right.
But if he's going to sell him a field for 1,000 zuz, and he gives him 500, so he acquires the entire thing. He already took half of it, and he has to go ahead and give him the rest of the money because he acquired it. After many years. So what do you see over here? Over here, according to Shmuel, you did not need to state this condition that if you don't pay me the other $800, then it'll be like a loan to me for $800. Over here, you seem to do it even without the conditions. If I go ahead and I'm buying off Mayor and I give him $400 for $1,000, so if I keep bugging Mayor for the money, or whatever it was, I was buying the field, right? You're bugging, where's my money? Where's my money? Where's my money?
Mhm.
So obviously you want to be paid all the money before
Right.
all the land is given over. Therefore, in that case, you only acquired Keneged unless it's a special contract,
Mhm.
unless it's a condition that says that you give me $400 down and you owe me $600. In that case, but if I'm not going ahead and if I'm bothered, where's my money? Where's my money? I need to get paid the other 600. It means the guy was mocking it, and therefore he doesn't need to go ahead and get the extra money in order for the land to be sold, and to go ahead and collect it later. I'm on the chavri the koyav nothing azuze like honey. Person goes ahead and he's going to buy something from his friend, and he keeps going, but he wasn't paid full money. He keeps going. He has not quite it. But if he hasn't gone ahead and keeps trying to go ahead and get his money, then he is kind of, then he acquires it. Rava, here comes Rava, says something very interesting. A person lends $100 to his friend, upare zuze, and he pays him the $100 he borrowed. He pays him $1 a week for 100 weeks. It is considered to be paid back, but he can have, a Tina's claims against the other person. You have basically caused me a loss because you get $1 a day, you're going to spend it. You get $100 at once, so then it's going to be something that you keep around a little more. All right, we'll stop here. Everyone have a wonderful day. So tomorrow, we will pick up from here.
Okay, come.
And